Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson. If this is your first time here, we want to welcome you. If you're an organizational leader or manager in church-based ministry, in business, in academia, then you're definitely in the right place. In addition to hosting the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast, I also offer one-to-one and group coaching for leaders and leadership teams that want to improve their effectiveness and become more productive and increase their performance. Inspirational, entertaining, and engaging keynote talks that will help shift the mindset of your leaders and bring about the organizational culture that you really desire. For more information or to book a free, no-obligation consultation to see whether we're the right fit for each other, simply drop me an email today at errol@errollawson.com. I'd love to have a chat with you. Thank you for listening. Enjoy today's show. Hello, and thank you for listening today, guys, on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson, and my guest today, Jon Gordon. Jon Gordon's best-selling books and talks have inspired readers and audiences from all around the world. His principles have been put to the test by numerous NFL, NBA, MLB coaches and teams, Fortune 500 companies, school districts, hospitals, and non-profits. He's the author of numerous books, including the Wall Street Journal bestseller, The Energy Bus, Soup, The No Complaining Rule, Training Camp, and The Carpenter. Jon and his tips have been featured on the Today Show, CNN, Fox and Friends, and in numerous magazines and newspapers. His clients include the Atlanta Falcons, LA Clippers, Pittsburgh Pirates, Campbell Soup, Wells Fargo, Northwestern Mutual, Publix, Southwest Airlines, Bayer, West Point Academy, and more. He's a graduate of Cornell University and holds a master's in teaching from Emory University. He and his training consulting company are passionate about developing positive leaders, organizations, and teams. And when he's not running through airports or speaking, you can find him playing tennis or lacrosse with his wife and 2 teenage children. Jon Gordon, thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thanks for having me. It's really an honor, and that's my bio on my website, but it's supposed to be a lot shorter than that. Just FYI.
So, Jon, is there anything we missed out in that bio right there? Anything you want to add?
Well, I mean, it's a bio that is meant for more of maybe the corporate world and all that, but I think the one part that it's missing is that I'm a follower of Jesus, and I think that would be important to share in terms of who I am and what I do, because it does guide everything I do in my life.
It's great. It's great, man. So, Jon, first of all, I mean, where did it all begin for you? You're doing what you've done is fantastic. You mentioned you're a follower of Jesus. Have you always been a follower of Jesus? What's your story? Like, how do you transition into what you do now?
Well, I actually grew up Jewish. I grew up in Long Island, New York, in a Jewish Italian family. A lot of food, a lot of guilt, a lot of wine, a lot of whining. And my mom was Jewish, and my stepfather, who raised me, he's my dad. He raised me since I was 5, so I consider him my dad. I don't even like that term, but he was Italian, and we never went to church, never went to temple. I was a seeker throughout, much of my 20s and then early 30s. And then a good friend of mine gave me some sermons on why I follow Jesus. So I started listening to these sermons, and it was around that time that I was really struggling with my life as well. I was miserable, I was negative, I was unhappy, I was trying to, find my purpose. And my wife had really had enough of my negativity, and I was making her miserable, I was making everyone in the family miserable, and I was just miserable myself. And it was during that time that I said, okay, what am I born to do? Why am I here? Because my wife said, I love you, but I'm not going to spend my life with you. And so I started to say, okay, I want to be better for her. I want to be better for me. And I want to just live this life that I felt like I was meant to live, and I wasn't living it. So when I cried out, I just said, God, why am I here? I know I'm here for a reason. I know you have a plan for me. Writing and speaking just kept on coming to me. I never did it before, but it was something that came to me. And I remember just saying, okay, I'm going to start going for this. And that's how it happened. That's how it started.
Wow. And so from that point onwards, like, you became this guy who's now changing the world through your speaking, your writing, your coaching, what have you. Like, how did it go from that decision to where you are now?
Right. Well, it didn't happen right away. I mean, first I just started a weekly positive tip. And this was way back when, before anyone even had a newsletter, but I had an e-newsletter. I started an email newsletter, and I started to share this out. This was in 2002, way back when. And I started just sharing positive tips with people, friends initially, and then other people would then share with their friends, and the list just started to grow. And out of that, people started to read it. I started to get emails, people asking for advice, and then I started to speak anywhere and everywhere. I think the first 80 talks I did were free. And then people started to offer to pay me, $500 for a talk here and, $750. And I really just wanted to share the message. So for me, it was about speaking everywhere and anywhere to just share this message that I had inside of me that I was writing about. I considered myself a writer first and a speaker second. And so I started to speak what I was writing about. And then I just started to draw more people to me. I really believe it was all God using me to share this message. My prayer every morning was, God, use me for your purpose. Guide me towards my purpose to share this message. And I look back and I realize that when you serve in small ways, you get more opportunity to serve in bigger ways. And here we are now, 2016. So 14 years after I started writing this newsletter, I wrote The Energy Bus, which became my most popular book and still is, in 2007. And that started to really get me out there a lot. And now this is, what I do full time, and I speak to, very large audiences and a lot of leaders, and just sharing the message that I know I'm meant to share. People say, hey, what do you want to do 5 years from now? I say, well, I want to do the same thing I'm doing that I've always done. Just continue to do it.
So what was that core message, Jon?
The core message that was positivity. The core message was choosing to be positive in a world of negativity, to have faith, to keep moving forward, not Pollyanna positive, and not the kind of positive thinking that is just on our own, but really trusting and having faith and moving forward in the face of adversity and challenges and setbacks. It's really a lot about grit. Grit is the ability to work hard for a long period of time towards a goal. Well, what drives grit? It's optimism, it's faith, it's purpose, it's love. It's all those things that move us forward to ultimately be our best and bring out the best in others.
Awesome. And was there like, as you're on this journey, right, was there a specific turning point, an epiphany you had? Maybe you were heading in one direction and something happened, a revelation of some sort that caused you to take a complete different direction along your leadership journey?
Well, I was moving in one direction in terms of I was in a .com, I was in sales, I was selling wireless technology, and that story where I shared where, my wife had enough of my negativity, and then I cried out and I prayed, that was a big part of that direction. So that really shifted everything towards doing this work. And then I remember I opened up a Moe's Southwest Grill. It was a burrito place. And the goal was to open that place up so that I can fund my writing and speaking to grow that. And 2 weeks before the restaurant opened, I lost my job and had no insurance for the kids, didn't know how I was going to pay the bills. And that is really where my faith was born, because that's when I cried out and truly asked for God's help. And then I would also then say the biggest decision was a couple years after that, when I listened to these sermons about Jesus and really ultimately said that I was meant to follow him. And I looked at the way he led. We talk about leadership, right? You want to be a great leader, look at how Jesus led. That is the ultimate leadership principles that we need to know in order to lead others. I wrote about them in my book, The Carpenter. And if we focus on loving, serving, and caring, then everything changes within us, and also how we impact our teams and our organizations. But for me, that transformation spiritually, it changed my heart, changed my soul, changed everything about me, changed myself as a parent, changed myself as a dad.
Wow.
And I would say I really grew to be a more selfless leader, a servant leader, whereas in the past, it was all about me. But following Jesus and really having him work on my heart and change me from the inside out.
How do you maintain that,
change
John?
the outside.
How do you maintain that level of sort of connection, relationship? That place you were in when you had that experience. How have you maintained that over the years since?
I just read a devotional last night, and I loved it because it said it's not about repeating prayers. It's not about making sure I read my devotional at 9 a.m. every day. You know what it's about? This is the way it is for me. It's childlike faith. For me, it's a daily walk to say, God, I can't do it alone. God, I need you. It's about prayer and saying, God, help me. Be with me, God. Bless me. Bless my family. Have me be a blessing to others. It's about walking in faith on a daily basis, knowing that you have to trust in God for everything. So really, to me, it's just about having faith, and it's about knowing that God is with you. I mean, that's so for me, it's prayer, and it's just this reliance and obedience and willingness to follow.
That's great. And what's been your biggest challenge in your leadership journey so far? Tell us that story.
I think the biggest challenge has been learning to go from me to we. So a couple of years ago, my kids were really struggling at home. My wife was struggling in raising them. And I was on the road a lot. And I was traveling a lot. And here I am speaking about leadership and developing positive teams. And my own team at home was struggling. So I knew right then and there that I had to focus on them more and I had to spend more time at home. So I said, all right, that's it. Cleared my calendar for a few months. I only did like 2 or 3 events per month. I took no more speaking, and I just spent time at home. And it was so hard because I was doing laundry. I was cleaning up around the house. I was taking my daughter to school. I was there when she got home. I was, it was a grind every day. We were all fighting, going through this transition, trying to get everyone back on track. And every bone in my body wanted to focus on me. But I realized I was at my best when I focused on we. Okay. And at the end of that year, because my word was serve that year. Every year I pick a word that drives me to be my best. Or actually, if I don't pick it, God picks one for me. And God chose the word serve, no accident, right, for that year. And my wife said, okay, what's going to be your word next year? Selfish? Because I've never seen you do so much. I said, no, it's now a part of me. It's now who I am. So that was a huge transition as a leader. Because that was a few years ago. And that's when my writing and speaking really took off, believe it or not, after that. And also, that's when I wrote The Carpenter after that, because The Carpenter is all about love, serve, care. And that became a model of recognizing the importance of servant leadership. But I could never have written that book. I could never speak about this if I hadn't gone through it myself to learn it. And I would say that was the single biggest transition for me as a leader, to continue to serve. I became closer to my kids during that time and continue to this day. I recognized what was important.
What was the key lesson learned for you in that sort of in dealing with that challenge? That
it's going to be the struggle. It's going to be the grind. But if you love your team, and that was my team, if you love them and you invest in them and you make them a priority, as you help them grow, you grow. As you serve others, you actually improve as a leader. We think it's about other people. No, yes, we are serving other people and making a difference. But ironically, when we help others, we actually help ourselves, because when we help others improve, we improve, and we grow into the leaders that God has called us to be.
That's great, man.
Are you seriously fired up about growing as a leader in business or church-based ministry? Are you feeling somewhat frustrated about not having realized your full potential in what you've been called to do? Could you do with someone to help you get some extra clarity, or to be a sounding board for your plans and ideas? Great athletes have coaches, so do great leaders. The right leadership coach for you will result in an increased sense of clarity, direction, and purpose, dramatically increasing the results you achieve. If you're ready to step up, contact Errol to book a free, no-obligation introductory coaching session and see whether Errol is the right coach for you. Errol takes the lessons learned from his own leadership journey and from his extensive research to help leaders and entrepreneurs to step into their biggest challenges and rise to their next level. Email admin@errollawson.com right now to schedule your call.
So, you've written how many books is it now?
Now I think it's like 13 or 14.
How did you carve out that time to be able to do that in the midst of your schedule?
Every December, I write a book. So every December, it takes about 3.5 weeks to write a fable that I write. And then that's when I find the time slows down to write. And so that's been a journey over the years of doing that. And then occasionally I'll write one mid-year if the inspiration comes and I'm meant to write it. I just wrote a children's book, and I actually wrote it 7 years ago. But we finally got the illustrator to finish the illustrations. It's been a while because he was such a perfectionist. But I believe everything is in God's timing, right?
So what's your process when you sit down in December? Where do you begin?
So I have the idea. I have a vision that God has given me for the story, sort of the framework. And then I begin really just sitting down, and I just start writing. And then one principle or rule leads to another, and then the story just sort of flows. So I'll write from like when I get up till about noon. I'll take a walk maybe in between there, and I'll get ideas on the walk. I'll come back, I'll write a lot of the ideas that I have down. I'll bring my phone with me even and type some things out that I have. And then I'll continue writing till about noon or 1, and then I'm done for the day. Before I go to bed, I'll write a little more, and I'll also edit what I have written that day, and so everything's sort of fresh. I wake up with like new ideas and energy to then write the next morning. And so by editing the night before, it sort of prepares you to write the next morning. And I'll do that again for a few weeks, and before you know it, I have a book. The Energy Bus took 3.5 weeks to write. Carpenter about 3.5 weeks.
How many words you write for each one?
How many words?
Yeah.
They're fables, so I don't know, maybe 25 to 30,000. Okay. They're not huge, but they're simple, quick reads.
It's brilliant, man. It's so inspiring. And do you ever feel like, you know what, I don't know what to write, I feel stuck, how'd you get through those moments?
Well, the only time I get stuck is when fear sets in. And I never really have writer's block unless that fear sets in. And what I realized during that time was when that fear sets in, I have to focus on the love of writing, the love of the story, and the love for the reader. And if I do that, love casts out fear. And next thing you know, I'm just writing. So when I was writing The Carpenter, for the first week I couldn't write anything. I was so stuck. I never had that before because people were enjoying my other books, and I felt like I was going to let them down with this one. But once I focused on the love of writing and the love of the reader, man, it just flowed
That's great.
amazing. So to me, it's not about writer's block. It's about just really just telling the story that I'm meant to write. And again, the more connected I am, the more clarity I have of what I'm supposed to write. So that walk of prayer every morning, I write a little bit, then I take that walk, and then come back and write a little more. That's so key.
Awesome. 13 books in, and you're speaking all over the place and what have you, working with some great people. At this stage, how do you define success?
Well,
having done so much.
Yeah, I mean, people often ask me again, what's the next 5 years? Or, the books have been bestsellers. But for me, success is this. When I die, hopefully a while from now, but even if it was, tomorrow or 10 years from now, when I die, someone meets my children who are now 17 and 15, and they say to my kids, hey, I read your dad's book, or I saw him speak, and it made a difference in my life. It changed my life. To me, that's the success. I live every day with that end in mind, that everyone I interact with, that the talks I give, that hopefully I'm inspiring someone, and that they're going to meet my kids down the road and tell them the impact I had on their lives.
It's great. It's great, man. And
to me, it's impact. To me, it's it's making a difference. To me, it's producing a harvest. It's planting a seed that you may not see the result, but you truly believe and know that a harvest is coming down the road somehow, some way, that God will produce it. And it's not about you getting the recognition, the reward, but it's knowing that there's going to be a harvest down the road of the work that you've done.
You know, John, you're a leader who really wants their life to count for something, to make an impact, make a difference. That's not everybody. Where do you get that from? Where did that start? How?
Right. I really believe that God doesn't pick the best. He picks the most willing. Mm-hmm. And if you're willing, he'll use you, mold you, and shape you to make an impact, to do his work. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was just this knowing, this calling that this is why I'm here. I really believe it comes from, knowing your purpose. Mm. And you can't know your purpose without a relationship with the one who created you for a purpose. Mm. So I believe everyone has a purpose. God has you here for a reason. Mm. And it's up to you to just say, all right, God, use me. I'm open. Show me the way. Mm. Show me what you want me to do. Have me be what you want me to be. And have me share your message, your joy. Make me an instrument of your peace and your love. Make me a vessel for your Holy Spirit. And make me a conduit for the miracles and the difference that you want to see in the world. And I believe that if you're open to that, then God uses you. So I would say I could say it only comes from God. And people who meet me, I'm nothing special. I'm 5'8.5", 5'9". I look very ordinary. I'm not 6'8" like Tony Robbins. And so people meet me and they're like, wow, this guy's so ordinary. He's so simple. He's had all this success and all these books. And they look at me and they think, if he can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, they're right. But what they don't realize is that it's God and the Spirit that is powering me. And you can't take someone else's call. Mm-hmm. And you can only have your call of what you're called to do. And this is just what I'm called to do.
It's great, man. It's great.
Yeah.
I think it was John Maxwell that said that success, or the secret to success, your success, is hidden in your daily routine. What does the first 90 minutes of your day look like typically? I imagine it changes often.
Did John Maxwell say it like this when he said that it's a daily routine? I've given you the 5 principles of the book. Okay, so I love doing John Maxwell. We've done some events together. I love getting to speak at the same conferences with him. So to me, the first 90 minutes is getting up. It's going to take that walk when I'm not writing. So I'm not writing right now, and it's making sure I want to take my dog for a walk and feed her and go for this walk. But a lot of times I get up, honestly, and the first thing I do is send out a tweet because I have to share out some kind of positive message around 8 or 8:30 in the morning, East Coast time, and I have to share that tweet out. So I don't like to do it by a computer or some program. I like to think about what I'm sending out that morning. So a lot of times I'll send that out. I'm reading, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Right now I'm on John, so I'm doing that, and really that's it. And then so it's working out, it's sending out a tweet. It's reading the Bible, and taking a shower, and then getting some work done. But a lot of times, my schedule is so different because I'm on the road. So a lot of times I get up in the morning, and I'm going to speak. And after I speak, I fly to the next city, and I speak again. I fly to the next city. Then I come home. Then I got a ton of work that I have to do to catch up, then I'm with my family. So the road and speaking on the road really messes with a lot of times your rhythm. But when I am home, it's nice to get into a rhythm when I'm home for 3 or 4 days straight.
So what have been the other key habits then that have contributed to your success? Other things that you do, routines, rituals, anything?
Well, again, the key is to write every day. So if you're a writer, you're going to write every day. If you are, speaking, you're going to speak, and that's one of the keys. Obviously, just to continue to speak and make a difference. It is to making sure you read something encouraging every day. That's a big part of the success. It's making sure you take that walk of gratitude and prayer in the morning. That's been my number one key, is that walk of gratitude and prayer in the morning has been one of the biggest foundations for my success, I would say.
That's powerful, man. Writing is thinking. Someone said to me recently. When you write, like, do you journal, or what do you do? What do you write?
No, I'm either writing a newsletter each week for, that I send out every Monday, the free newsletter I send out. I'm writing stuff for Twitter or Facebook. I'm thinking of an inspirational message or a quote, and then when I'm in writing mode for a book, I'm writing every day.
Okay, cool. And what's your biggest weakness as a leader?
My biggest weakness as a leader, I would say, is that I allow stress to get to me. And so when I get overwhelmed with stress and busyness, and I have a lot of stuff I have to do, then that's when my relationships suffer. That's when I'm more outside in. I'm looking at the world outside instead of focusing on the spirit on the inside. And I know we create a world inside out. So it's recognizing that fear and stress and busyness is getting to me, so I can be a better leader to others. Because if you're busy and stressed, you go into self-preservation mode, and it's all about serving yourself instead of serving others. So it's that reminder in the face of the business and stress about what matters most, slowing down, taking a deep breath, and then saying, hey, be a blessing to others.
And what's your biggest strength?
My biggest strength probably is my work ethic and my grit. I work hard, and I continue to just, share the message. Like, I just have a lot of energy in terms of sharing the message. And also my biggest strength is, I guess, just the reliance and obedience on God, on what I'm here to do. So I know my why, and I do it every day. And I think people often say to me, like, wow, you're a machine. Like, how do you keep writing all these books? And you know what? I get up every day and I just do the work. I just show up and I do the work. And I would say that's my biggest strength, is just showing up and doing the work.
Yeah, it's so interesting that quite often our strengths and weaknesses are like the flip side of the same coin. Like, I hear there, like, this machine getting things done, then there's the stress side, and just the machine wants to keep going even though we've exhausted, and
Amen. Yes, exactly.
It's interesting, man. I think it's for all of us, I tell you. So, when you first started out and you've begun this journey into leadership, you studied and you're now launching into your own thing. What was holding you back, if anything at all? What was holding you back from going into leadership?
Well, the only thing that was holding me back in the beginning was a feeling of unworthiness. That who am I to share this message? Like, who am I to do this work? Who am I to be telling other people how to lead and how to live their best life? And then the way that was reconciled was through prayer. And then I said, all right, God, like, I'm here because you want me to do this. Like, I am here because I am a child of God. I am worthy only in you, not myself. And once I realized that, then God started to use me in a powerful way. And then I also realized that I had an obligation to share this message, to help others, that if I could help others, I should. And now I know, like, there's no doubt, like, that's what I do. I help leaders be better leaders. I help professional athletes be better leaders and be better performers. I help leaders in ministry and also in corporate America to do the work that they're called to do, to bring out the best in others, to be positive leaders, to have a vision, to have an impact, to have that optimism, to live with purpose, to lead with purpose, to build great cultures in their organizations. Like, I know without a doubt, like, looking back, it's amazing I could see how God has molded me to be this kind of leader. But in the beginning, I didn't feel worthy.
That's really interesting. The imposter syndrome.
Yes, we all have it.
Yeah. So you said practically you prayed about it. You prayed through. Yep. Anything else that you did?
I remember walking before an event in San Diego years ago, and walking along the marina and just saying, God, I am worthy in you, God. I am worthy because I'm a child of God. Not on my own, I am nothing, but with you, I am meant to share this message. And just that prayer, that next day, I remember I gave a talk, and it was probably one of my most powerful talks at that time. And I just knew that, okay, I'm here for a reason.
Awesome. Who have been your three most significant mentors on your journey?
Well, one, Ken Blanchard, the author of The 1 Minute Manager.
Yeah.
So Ken wrote the foreword to The Energy Bus and The Carpenter, and he's just been an incredible mentor for me. I would also say Max Lucado, who I just love his writing, and I've really enjoyed his writings over the years. But of course, number one would have to be, Jesus, in the terms of the way he led, and not only just as my savior, but just as a model of leadership.
Awesome. And let me dig a bit deep into those three relationships. For each of those individuals, what's the best piece of advice they've each given you?
There's so many. Well, Jesus says all things are possible to those who believe. So that would be definitely one. And also, obviously to be a servant. Ken Blanchard was just the way he led. He taught me through his own example. He's a man of faith, but of humility. And so he showed me what a man of faith is like. So when I was on my faith journey, I remember meeting him and being like, that's what I want to be like. Like, I want to be like him. And so his example moved me in that direction. And then Max Lucado, not one example, but I just love his book, Traveling Light, about the burdens we were never meant to carry. And I just love his writings overall. They just spoke to me. And Erwin McManus. I can't forget Erwin. Erwin, who is a pastor in LA and wrote Chasing Daylight and The Artisan Way, and just so many amazing books. And he is the one. His sermons are the one that led me to Jesus. So he has been a huge. And his advice to me was when I was struggling on the faith journey, and I was meeting these hypocrites who called themselves Christians, who weren't acting like Christians. Erwin said, "John, don't let Christians keep you from Jesus." And when he said that, I thought, wow, I love that. Go right to the truth. And I did, and that's when the journey became more powerful.
It's great. You've been on this journey now a while. Like, I'm sure there's lots that you're really passionate about, but what's the one thing you're most fired up about right now in this moment?
The thing I'm most fired about is just my book, The Carpenter. I mean, I just getting out there talking about loving, serving, and caring, and being able to share that message in businesses and with coaches. You just hear how coaches and leaders are being transformed by just focusing on those three things. Like, hey, all I gotta do is love what I do, love my team. I gotta serve them, help them be their best, and I gotta show I care and find my own unique way to do that. And when you realize caring is a strategy, and so I get young leaders all the time, asking me, how do I become a leader? How do I grow my influence? I say, just lead the people around you. Just love, serve, and care where you are. And as you do that, your influence will exponentially grow and exponentially multiply. That's all you have to do. Love, serve, and care. Jesus took 12, and by investing in those 12 relationships, the people around him, right? One obviously fell away, but for the rest, those people would go on to change the world. What would happen if you just invested in the 2 or 3 right next to you and the 12 on your team? I really believe that we can lead effectively, 12 people. We try to get more than that, too many in your own direct leadership group. But those 12 you could have an influence on, 2 or 3 at even a deeper level. And if everyone would do that, we would change the world.
Wow. I guess you've worked a lot in the corporate market, corporate companies, from the big sports teams. Do you carry this same message, like of your faith, into those organizations? What has been your strategy for getting that message into those places?
It's really not a strategy. I just talk, and when I'm speaking, I'll mention God, and I tell some jokes and I weave things in that way. But I don't really give like an overt altar call or faith action. Yeah. And I don't talk about my relationship with Jesus, but people always come up to me afterwards and they're like, wow, you didn't even say it, but yet it was so evident, and it happens all the time. So it's almost like I don't need to, and it's really not always the place to do it. That's not, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing God's work, because what happens is people then follow me on Twitter, they'll follow me on Instagram, they'll then, follow me on Facebook, they'll read my newsletter, and then, on Sunday